Welcome to another edition of the SprintCarLimited.com Deep Dive presented by EnTrust IT Solutions. Joining us on this week's show is Macri Motorsports Crew Chief Joe Mooney. Before we get to Joe, don't forget to check out EnTrust IT Solutions. EnTrust is a full-service technology company serving small and mid-sized businesses in New York, Pennsylvania, and surrounding areas. The staff at EnTrust IT Solutions takes a personalized approach to technology. See why customers are choosing EnTrust IT Solutions as their technology partner by scheduling a free consultation at www.entrust-msp.com or by calling 717-292-8868. Here's Joe. Joe, welcome to the Deep Dive. We appreciate having you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's funny. You're in the pit area. You're with Anthony Macri now. Everybody, knows you from KKR kind of, and then obviously taking the crew chief position with Anthony. And I didn't know that you're from Lehighton, PA, which just goes to another crew chief or another crew guy who was on the road, being from Pennsylvania. Before I get into that though, how did you get involved in racing? How did you get started?
Racing, my family goes back pretty deep. My dad drove asphalt for years. My both my dad's dad owned my dad's car. My other grandfather, uh, the car back in the Dorney Park, early Mahoning Valley Speedway days. You never drove, but he had a car. And then my uncle is a engine builder. So and he used to drive. He also drove everything on asphalt all the way up to a couple ARCA starts.
So you were actually a driver at one point.
Yeah, I started out just wrenching on my dad's stuff all the way back. As soon as I could go hang out at the shop. My one grandfather took care of tires. I tended to spend a lot of time with him. And then back in the day, I was probably 10 or 12 years old, and they'd give me a can of brake clean. And, we didn't do car washes on asphalt. It was more give me a can of brake clean and a couple rags and go underneath the car and wipe all the rubber or, you know, grease or oil or whatever, was all over the track that week. And, started from there and, you know, and eventually around 14 or 15 years old, I never did the quarter midget thing. Kind of always wanted to, but my dad was driving, and eventually I hopped in an enduro car. Learned to drive stick shift the morning of the race in a grocery store parking lot. And that was they sent me out there in an enduro race with like 60 cars, and I was hooked from there. I'm pretty sure I put it in the fence on lap 3, but it was all good after that.
That's a hell of a thing. Just learning to drive stick shift the morning of and then just throwing you out there. What made you go from driving to working on cars?
Um, the financials. I always had aspirations bigger than my budget. Um, I go back. I grew up on asphalt, ran asphalt for years. Mahoning Valley Speedway was 2 miles from my house. We used to drive past the track to go to our race shop, so it was just very convenient. That's what my family grew up on and knew. I was fortunate enough, my grandfather and parents like kind of owned our street stocks growing up. My brothers raced as well. Um, I had some decent success. Lucky enough to find a ride in asphalt late model, which turned into an asphalt modified for a car owner. Then he ran into some health issues, and my grandfather, I was kind of at like I don't know what I was, probably like 20 years old then. And I think my grandfather and parents were sick of spending money on it. So basically, if I was going to spend my own money, then I decided to go dirt racing.
Now, did you ever race on dirt?
Yeah, yeah, I ran About 2.5 years at Big Diamond between Sportsman and Modified, and about a year at Kutztown in the Speedster.
And you gave that up again because of financials?
So honestly, like part of what led me going on the road, um, I had made a job change, and ended up hating my job. So I was looking for an excuse to get out of that. And then I destroyed the Speedster pretty much at the same time. And it was all kind of a snowball effect. I ended up finding, you know, I, there was nothing in the plans. I was just sitting at work disgruntled one day, and I think Swindells and Shark Racing had both posted looking for crew members. It was at least in the same week, and I shot some emails out, and kind of with my racing background. I had also, like, through high school, I'd worked in my uncle's engine shop, tearing apart engines, doing a little bit of machine work, just here and there. And yeah, so my race car was wrecked. I hated my job, and I really had no intentions of going. Like, honestly, when Bobby called me up, I'm like, it wasn't a lot of money. I had a little bit of money, but I wasn't going to be able to sustain at what he was going to pay me. And honestly, I went there with the intentions. I think there were like 20 races left on the schedule in 2017. And you know what? When he told me what I was going to pay, I'm like, well, I need an excuse to quit my job anyway. And I'll probably do this for the rest of the year. And, I can get by on that kind of money for about that amount of time. And I'll go see some different racetracks and learn a little bit. And, then I'll probably go back and find a regular job.
What was the job you were in that you hated so much?
Um, I was a maintenance tech slash forklift mechanic for about 7 or 8 years, working in a warehouse. And then I left a job I shouldn't have left, and went and worked on some hydrogen fuel cells
Oh,
powered for a company. It was a startup company, and it was just a disaster, absolute disaster. Spent half my time, and it was in half dry grocery storage and half cold storage, and I wasn't a fan of going in the cold storage building and picking up, fixing broken down forklifts. Yeah, I was ready to go.
you were done. You were over it.
Yeah, I was over it.
So you go on the road with Shark Racing. What was that like? Because Bobby Allen, legend. Everybody, I mean, goes back years and years and years. I remember watching him race in the 80s. Uh, and despite the money, how much was that a learning experience for you? Just, finishing out the year with Shark Racing.
Oh, it was huge. Man, I wish I had a tape recorder. I used to joke around and say, Bobby's so soft spoken. I'd say riding down the toter, my side would get sore because I'd be leaning over trying to listen, trying to hear him, and whether he's talking on the phone with somebody else or just telling old stories. Yeah, I mean, I soaked as much up as I could, but I really wish wish I had a tape recorder to really listen to. I'm sure I missed some stuff along the way, but it was great. All Shark Racing, great people. Got my before I went with Shark Racing, I never touched a sprint car in my life. I've worked or driven pretty much every other race car under the sun, whether from asphalt, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and but never had touched a sprint car. I was always a fan. I think I went to my first outlaw race at Grandview. I don't know what year that would have been, but even while I was racing asphalt, like I was more of a racing fan. Like any chance I could get to the Grove or the Thunder on the Hill shows at Grandview, always made sure I was there. Loved when Eastern Storm or the All Stars or anybody would come to town. Always sprint cars always had my interest. Uh, had never had the chance to work on.
How much of a learning curve was that going from, say, asphalt modifieds to obviously sports and modifieds, big diamond and modifieds at big diamond, and then going to work on a sprint car. Is it glaringly different?
Um, I mean, once you kind of pick up how things work, sprint cars are really pretty simple. When it comes down to the basic mechanics of them, there's honestly a lot less moving parts than in a modified. We used to go back, man, like we'd have with the asphalt modified, the geometry and scaling and stuff. We used to have to dedicate a whole night at the shop, a 4 or 5 hour scaling session almost every week. Uh, you know, 16th of an inch here or a half a degree there. And I'm not saying that stuff doesn't matter in sprint cars, but like the process, And I mean, we'll mess around with scales once in a while here when you're trying to figure out a new car, a different car. But, now you throw it on setup blocks and, your scaling process is a lot quicker. And there's just a lot of, I don't miss the downtime with asphalt racing. There's a lot of sitting around. People complain about slow shows on dirt. Well, a lot of them should go back and go sit through 3 hours of practice before the night even starts on asphalt.
No, thank you. I've seen it, been there, done that. I'm over that. So you finish that the rest of that year. How do you end up at KKR?
Oh, well, backtrack a little bit in that year. Honestly, like I really, like I said, I thought I'd just finish the year and that would be it. But I was lucky enough. I worked a couple weeks and Logan's like, hey man, like, so I have a family, I guess it was a family friend or someone in the family that wasn't really into racing, but was looking to contribute to the team. And they felt that help was part of their downfall at the time. And he's like, we really like you so far, like what you're doing. He picked up on everything quick. So, this guy's willing to pay somebody's salary and maybe some health benefits and stuff like that. And so then I'm like, well, okay, so, maybe I can stick around here, and that ended up all coming together really quick. And we had that all ironed out by the end of the season. And so then I was there for 2018 as well.
And how important was it in your mind to have that extra year with Shark Racing?
No, it was, there had been some other like job job openings in the sprint car world, and I didn't feel I was ready to really like put myself out there. I fully needed that extra year of getting my feet wet, and man, shark racing's come a long way, and grew a real appreciation. I'm glad I grinded it out. Basically the shark racing style back then. I really have a huge respect for those guys and what they did to get up and down the road, and made me respect some of the finer things when I didn't.
So how do you get hooked up with KKR? Kasey Kahne Racing and Brad Sweet. Pretty good team.
Yeah. Honestly, funny story. Um, Me and Logan, we actually gave Brad a ride from Brownsburg to Fort Crown, I believe, and Brad was like, "Oh yeah, man, we just had a guy quit. I got to find or another crew guy for next week." And I'm like sitting there thinking or for next year, and I'm sitting there thinking the whole time, yeah, that'd be really cool. And I didn't talk to Brad then. He didn't approach me. But then literally the week later, Brad actually put on Twitter looking for a crew guy, and I'm like, and I didn't before that day. I never spoke to Brad. Honestly, I hadn't knew who Eric was, but never really talked to him. I used to deal with Andrew from buying used tires from those guys, but yeah. So Brad put the address. I'm like, hey man, like I don't know if you remember me, but I was the guy in Logan's RV, and yeah. So shot him the email, and next thing you know, deal was lined up to go down there.
Was that difficult for you to kind of make that jump? Because here, I mean, look, anytime, somebody gives you a quote unquote break and you're obviously you're trying to you want to progress your career, but then yet it's kind of it's an awkward thing. Was that a difficult decision to go to Kasey Kahne Racing?
It definitely was. I mean, I don't know if the decision to go was difficult, but it was difficult to tell Bobby and Logan and Jacob. You know, still super close with all those guys. Talk to them anytime I see them. You know, utmost respect for all of them, and like you said, they gave me my chance. Without them taking a chance, I'm not at KKR. I'm not here today. So, yeah, like just it was very that morning and I really like never had that situation leaving, before, and kind of the same thing happens, when you go to leave KKR to come here. It's a you know it's, it's something you need to do, but it's not being like, oh man, see you guys later. It's a tough
Yeah.
deal. You grow really close with people in this industry, and especially when you have respect for those people, it's a very tough deal.
So you go to KKR and they have a lot of things in place already. They had they had a championship at that time. Um, and Brad obviously established. Eric been there, worked with him. I've always said there's a KKR way. I know crew guys have come and gone. Drivers have come and gone. You have to be a certain personality to work at KKR, and they're looking for certain guys to fit what they do. Was it difficult fitting in there a little bit? Because I mean, you're doing it their way.
Oh, not at all. I mean, I don't know if there's a KKR way. Maybe a little bit, but it's more about just everybody, gelling as a team. And like I said, when you spend this amount of time with each other, it's you can't hate the guy next to you, or it's just not gonna work out. And you gotta, you know, just working together and to accomplish the same goal is huge. And if everybody's not on the same page, that's not going to happen. But
What was it
as
like
far as
What's that?
go ahead.
No, what was it like working with Eric? I mean, Eric's from Pennsylvania. I had him on the deep dive earlier, which I still can't believe I got him to do it.
Yeah, I mean, once you got him on, I knew there was no way I could say no to you. If you got Eric to do it, I guess I had to do it. So
Well, and I appreciate that because I was wondering when I texted you this morning, I'm like, I'm crossing my fingers a little bit, and I'm like, I didn't put the Eric thing there, but I got Eric. So I mean, because he's tough. But what was it like working with Eric? I mean, your personalities seem to me from the outside looking in, you could drop an M80 in your shorts and you're okay. You're just that even guy. And he's always I've never seen either of you like really intensely mad, even though he told me he does. Uh,
I can tell you, we both do. You might not
so
see it, but yeah.
I almost want to see it. But um, what was it? What was it like working with Eric? I mean, a guy who, I mean, he had a long history getting there as well, and has worked for Delansky and other guys. How much did you learn at KKR?
Oh, a great bit. You know, working with Eric was great. We are, I feel, both very similar personality wise. Like you said, we're both not the most talkative guys, but if you do talk to us, you can get us both going and uh, about the right topics. And no, learned, you know, Eric obviously learned from Ricky, and I mean, just everything just is just a trickle down effect. You surround yourself with good people. I feel like Eric, you know, learned from a lot of good people, and I got to learn from Eric. And anything I ever asked, sometimes I kick myself for not asking more. but still to this day, I walk over to the 49 trailer and, he's not going to open up the notebook, but, if I have a question about anything, well, what do you think about this? What's this going to do? I can go over there and, he's going to shoot me straight. And I appreciate that respect and everything he did. Even when I went to tell him, that I was leaving, I think he was happy for me. Knew that, he was in those shoes one day and, did the same thing. And KKR, I mean, also you had Justin there in the shop
Yeah.
every day, whether he was with the nine car or just in the shop. Another great guy to learn from. Justin and Eric are two very different people. And like, even, just Justin's drive to get stuff, just that figure it out attitude is always good to have around as well. And that goes from the top down. Kasey, having a car owner that was, I don't think not everybody realizes how much that guy lives for sprint car racing. At the shop. I mean, I was there after his NASCAR tenure, but whether it was in the gym for a workout or just walking through, or he'd have days where he's building shocks for 8 hours, you know, just having a good owner like that, and the morale there and everything was always great.
And I go back and I'd love to have Justin on sometime too. I worked with Carl Kinzer. I mean, you
Yeah,
can't, you can't exactly go wrong there.
no, not at all. That's what I mean. Like whatever you needed, somebody was always there. Whether it was Eric, Justin, Kasey, Brad's a smart guy. Just you know, listened away. Just years of I wasn't always the most vocal person, but I was always you know, I loved listening to Eric and Brad's communication and just the way Brad would describe the car or track or and I try to learn. All right, well, he's saying this, Eric's gonna, you know, this is what leads to this change, and it was just the way both of them thought, and kind of trying to. I always used to like try to prepare myself for hopefully becoming a crew chief one day. Like I'd almost get to the point like I'd try to. I'd watch the car, I'd listen to them, and I'd try to come up with what Eric was going to tell me to do to the car before it happened. And like, that was one way. It was a great like learning without, just by observing.
Dealing with success, win a title, then obviously you win a title with them. What's it like when you're chasing a title as opposed to when you're winning them? Does the pressure ramp up? I mean, I've talked to Brad and Eric numerous times about it. I wanted to get kind of how you look at that, because guys were successful, as a team right away. When you got in there and you're piling up championships and wins, that's, I mean, how did you approach each season? Did it change?
You told yourself that the pressure wouldn't be there or wouldn't be as much, but yeah, that's a lie. Everyone, and put a lot of pressure on myself, even as a car guy, even if I knew I did my job 100%, there's always that, just that feeling like, well, what if this part breaks, and, it very well might not be your fault, but, you're the car guy. Like that's, it could just be a manufacturer part failure, nothing you could have done, but that's your job. And, I learned a lot, Eric, when I got there, basically at Shark, I learned the ins and outs of the sprint car and, what everything was. But I think Eric took my maintenance and things to look for that first year there. I learned a ton of, look for this, and if this is happening, this is probably what's causing it. And that first year at KKR, I think that my level there in that department, from everything I learned from Eric, really escalated.
When did you first, when did it first enter your mind? Not when you left, but when did it first enter your mind that, hey, I may want to be a crew chief someday instead of a car chief?
Um, Pretty early into my tenure at KKR, I'd say probably after that first year. I had, definitely, all right, well, I really like this, successful. I do want to get to the next level. And after our third season, kind of had a few opportunities that I probably could have left, but I don't know that anything was the right fit. And I had, around that third and fourth year at KKR, like I told myself, and especially after that fourth year, it's like, all right, well, I got to figure out if I can do this or not. I'm gonna not getting any younger. You know, I guess I am somewhat. I don't know. I guess probably average in the crew chief world, age wise. But I was at the point where I'm either going to take this next step and see if I can hack it, and if I can't hack it, I'll probably go back to the real world, or move on somewhere else in racing. But I wasn't going to be content, um, not being a crew chief, for much longer.
How did the deal with Macri come about? What was it that stood out that made you take that job?
Um, well, I knew Shuttlesworth had left, and Bernie was filling in, and that wasn't, going to be at least I didn't think was going to be a permanent thing. I had put some feelers out elsewhere as well. Um, Kind of everything was turned out to be a no-brainer. Uh, they're well established. I think that year prior, they had the most wins in the country.
Yep.
So obviously being from Pennsylvania and just being in the sprint car world, um, had watched Anthony's progression throughout the last 3 or 4 years. Uh, Definitely knew he had the talent. Um, just being back home in Pennsylvania was another thing that was huge. I love North Carolina, but if I was going to move somewhere else in the country, you know, probably, always good to be back home closer to family. Um, then I came up here. I think we started talking before Knoxville that year. Maybe had a phone call or two with Ryan. Uh, the year around National Open Week came, and you know met Anthony, met Nick, met Ryan. Um, yeah, and everything just kind of seemed like a no brainer from there. All the equipment was here. There was no denying that. Young kid who likes to gas it up, and
Yeah.
have everything just kind of made sense. Being back home, like I said, closer to family. Uh, the opportunity to still travel. I wouldn't have coming home to Pennsylvania is great, but I wouldn't have been content just going to Williams Grove and Lincoln or Port Royal every week. So it's having the freedom to travel, race wherever we want, whenever we want. Nick supports that. He said that from day one and has held true to that. So it just all kind of made sense.
Was there a nervousness a little bit because, they had success with Shuttlesworth or just put a 23 win season together? Then they had Bernie. Then Ryan steps in and he won all the races in September because, he says he doesn't know anything. And my podcast host. Uh, and here you come in. That again, not an easy situation to step into.
No, and I knew that. Having Ryan here working through for the concrete company and kind of overseeing the racing program was definitely a reassurance. I knew I wasn't going to be on my own. You know what I mean? Like just, you know, shit, I probably made more phone calls to Ryan in the last, you know, two 2 years than probably anybody in my life, whether it's just, oh, this is what we got going on, informing him, or, he's helping me with this, or, hey, you ever seen this before? Because he did this for a long time and is very knowledgeable in what he says. And he even got him back out of retirement again this year. So,
Look, if you get that guy to a racetrack, you're doing something. He avoids me because I want to do a post race video. That I still can't believe you
yeah,
got him.
and it all, I, I feel very good about the network of people, you know, made me feel reassured about taking it. Like I said, just being able to call Eric, call Justin through KKR. I got a great relationship with Brian Matherly from Catings. Um, Lots of people that have been down the road, been in it for years. Uh, I can still call it Bobby Allen. Just feel like I've surrounded myself with a lot of good people that don't get me wrong, I was nervous, but and not that they're going to come do the job for you, but you get in a tough situation or need somebody to get your head back straight. I feel like I have a lot of people in my corner that they're a phone call away.
Now here's the tough question. I said there are going to be a couple. I got to do my job. But so you get there and you're winning. Every seamless. And then Anthony leaves. And it's family stuff. So you're kind of what was that like for you? I mean, you just get there, your first crew chief job, first year as a crew chief. What was that whole experience, as much as you can say, like? And obviously, you had multiple drivers in the car as well.
Yeah, be lying if it said it wasn't tough. I'm sure it made me a bit stronger, probably made me a little bit better crew chief. Definitely learned some things from Lance and Justin. Just uh, it was taxing. It was taxing, but I had a job to do, and my job was to make 39M go fast, no matter who was in the seat. And that was my commitment at that point. Obviously, we wanted everything to work out with Anthony, and it did, and everything's been great ever since. And you know, uh, yeah, I think kind of everybody learned and grew from it. Wouldn't say I'm glad it happened, but since it did happen, take all the positives out of it. Like I said, I was lucky enough to have Lance and Justin, again, two very different ends of the spectrum there. So, Justin pretty similar to Anthony in driving style, but still, you know, uh, he works on his stuff himself a lot out there. So interesting, and having that perspective of somebody who drives and turns wrenches, and then more of the old school, Lance Deweese, stuck through the middle approach and some of his little tricks and what he was looking forward to feel. And yeah, definitely take a bad experience and learn from it and move on.
And just not that this is tough, but what was the hardest part? The fan part? Because let's face it, fans are unmerciful sometimes.
Yeah, just
Was it the
just
fans or just the incident itself and then getting Anthony back?
um a lot of it was, you know, it just wouldn't go away. Like, you're just trying to race, and you want everything to be better. And like, don't get me wrong, you're thinking, oh, you don't need anybody else to bring it up through that point, and it just wouldn't go away. And even when he came back, just still people carrying on. And I think we've pretty, finally the off season came, and everybody got pretty well moved on from it.
And when he did come back, and I think from what I see and being around you guys, in the pit area as much as I am, you guys didn't miss a beat. And I agree with you. I think everybody grew from it. How satisfying is it to you that you guys haven't missed a beat, that you have 15 wins? Uh, that's got to be, I mean, you got to feel pretty good about that coming out of that situation, just to be able to jump right back in and not miss a beat.
Yeah, I feel like at the end of last year we really didn't have the results to back up, but I feel like we pretty quick right away off the back. We just had some freak stuff happen. We're going to be in contention at Bridgeport. Got caught up with a lap car. Yeah, what else happened? Just some stuff. Just things didn't go our way at the end of last season after we did get back together. And but it was nice to know that we had a good portion of our speed back to end the year, and then we just came out of we all worked hard over the off season. We brought Nate in, who was a great addition.
Yeah.
A little bit off of my plate. Um, frees me up to do a little more. We're still I don't want to call us shorthanded, but most that traveling teams are laid out with three guys, three full-time guys, and it's the two of us. We got a lot of help that comes around locally, but not all the time on the road. And but before that, it was just me and Anthony were the only two full-time guys, and bringing Nate on freed me up a bunch to focus on a little more things that probably didn't get my full attention before, just being spread a little thin. And, we came out, uh, had good speed early in Florida this year, and just kind of snowballs from there.
What is the biggest thing you've learned in your, whatever it is, almost 2 years of being a crew chief now? What's the biggest thing you learned from day one to where you are right now?
I'm trying to learn every day. I don't know that I could pinpoint one thing. Um, still, still like my knowledge, my room to grow is huge. I'm definitely not the smartest guy in the pit area. You know, but like I said, just watch smart people and learn from them. You know, always trying to pick up. It's not. There's never. I don't feel like sprint car racing isn't. It's not going to be one. Magic. There's no magic switch to turn. It's a bunch of little knickknack things, and you gain. You know, you pile up six different tiny things, and it's all about a pack. Getting a package, and you're learning every day. People say the sport hasn't changed, but no, the chassis and stuff. But we got new tires. Everybody can cry about them all they want, but we're on year two of it. Just go to work and just keep working, because I guarantee you, I know Eric's not stopping working trying to make his car faster. I know Ricky Warner's not hasn't stopped, trying to make his car faster. And um, like I said, if you're chasing and learning from those guys, they they know what they're doing. They've been out here for a long time and won a ton of races. And you just try to pay attention to somebody better than you in a certain area. Just try to work on that area, and see, like, man, is there something I'm missing? And just go to work every day.
I've always said, the relationship between driver and crew chief is super important. Um, what's it been like, your communication with Anthony. He has to trust you, okay? Because you're the one setting up the car, you're the one doing stuff. The communication with Anthony. Uh, did it take you a while to build that? Did that happen pretty quick? And what's your communication like now?
Uh, he says I talk with my looks a lot.
I agree with him.
Said about getting mad. He claims that I don't have to say anything to know that I'm pissed off. So no, we have good communication. I think that's going to keep growing with time. Getting him to more tracks and you know more situations. That's one thing. I think I can. I do think he trusts me especially when we go out on the road, just having been out there,
Yep.
been a greater deal of these tracks and or just, situations that arise when you're not back to your shop every day. Um, but no, communication is good. There's always room for improvement, and like I said, I'm still learning, um, you know, every day, like, and just watching the car, just trying to, you're just always trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
I talked to you earlier in the year because I remember when Anthony was just practicing at Babs. That's all he was doing. I remember when he ran his first few races. Um, I've seen a guy go from here to just off the charts and just he's not a one trick pony. I know people say he likes to bang the boards. Yeah, he might like it, but I saw him win a race at 34 Raceway against High Limit on the bottom. What have you, and when we talked earlier in the year, you were really good about what have you seen? I mean, I see a driver who's progressed tremendously. How good is Anthony now compared to where he was?
Yeah, I mean, his consistency, I would definitely say, has improved a lot. Um, yeah, ever since I've been here, I mean, I agree. I think everybody just thinks, oh, Port Royal, Macri down the fence. But I mean, the Speed Week show this year there that we won right through the middle was that and 34, stick out to my mind. And and I mean, that's great. Like, I mean, yeah, there's times where you got to get up there and beat the boards, but if you don't have to put yourself at that risk and can beat them in the bottom and the middle, why not? Um, his patience this week at Eldora, definitely seen the growth at Eldora, Knoxville, and yeah, all around not putting himself in situations where I'm sure 19 or 20-year-old Anthony would have put himself in, and he's definitely still aggressive, but you know, smart, makes good choices, not tearing up a lot of equipment, knows when you need to stick your nose in there and make that move or when it can wait another lap or it's just the risk isn't worth it.
What was it like watching him finish fifth at the Knoxville Nationals? I think sometimes people understate how difficult Knoxville can be to get around and get around fast. And it's a track you have to learn. It's a track that can take years. It's a momentum deal. But Anthony polished off a fifth place finish at the Knoxville Nationals. It might be one of the best races and best accomplishments in my view that he's had. And there's been a lot of them.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And that Knoxville, even though Saturday night's impressive, uh, you got to look at the whole week
Yep.
because even our qualifying night, starting 21st, and I forget where we got to, maybe but the drive through there, Saturday night doesn't happen without that. Uh, and also, I think that snowballs, his confidence into, all right, we're going to be in the mix on Saturday. We're starting sixth, I believe. And yeah, that whole weekend definitely when you can finish in the top five at a crown jewel, it's definitely something to hang your hat on it. And let alone you know, not a crown jewel at a track that we don't run hardly.
Right.
It's not National Open. If we come finish fifth, I'm probably going to be, that was okay. But, to go to Knoxville, 100 some cars, or somewhere we don't have a ton of laps, me as a crew chief or him as a driver. And we've shown speed there at times, but it was definitely nice to throw the whole week together.
Uh, Gonna throw some different things at you. I mean, you talked about tires. There's a lot of complaining about it right now. There's a lot of complaining about the Wicker bill, the package, the overall package. Some are okay with it, some aren't. Where do you shake out on this whole tire Wicker bill product stuff, the racing in general? I've heard, I mean, obviously Brent Marks uh, was public about, with his statements, but other people piggybacked it. Where do you shake out on all this? Which I kind of think I know your answer, but I want to hear it from you.
There's only one choice in the tire truck, and we're only allowed to run 1 inch max wicker. So those are the rules. Whether I agree with them or not, I think the racing's been heads or tails different either way.
I
Uh,
agree with you.
been minute maybe, uh, but yeah, I mean those are the rules we're given. I'm gonna go to work and try to make my car the best it can be within those rules.
Do you think that's, and it's so, and I don't know how I want to say it. I say that KKR way type thing. It doesn't help to complain. It's exhausting, but you just go to work.
Especially not on Facebook. The people that you're complaining to on there, and it just doesn't do the sport any good. I don't think the people that you're reaching on that audience right there are going to be the ones that are going to make any changes. Anyways.
You reached out. I did a 90 at 9, and you reached out to me about the pick and choose. And you guys, now Brent Marks made it work a couple years ago, and you guys have consistently made it work. And I'm to the point now where if somebody would have said to me 3 years ago, "Hey, pick and choose is the way to go," I would have been like, "I'm good with that." I don't believe that anymore. And the reason I don't is because you have to win. If you don't win, it it's going to cost you. You guys have made it work. Where do you come out on this now? And I think that's something that shows how good of a team you have with Nate, you, Anthony, and all the people, and Nick, of course, Ryan. Uh, it's tough to make that work because it's imperative. I would say it's even more pressure filled running a pick and choose or a true outlaw schedule. You have to win races because if you don't, there's no tow money, there's no bonus money, there's no point money.
Yeah, everything comes with its perks, and we're just fortunate enough to be in Pennsylvania, and our shop could not be located at a better spot.
It's true.
I literally, if you laid all the racetracks out on a map, our shop is like you could pick anywhere to build a shop. It wouldn't be far from here. So everything just makes sense. If we were based in Indiana or
Right.
Missouri, I believe running the Outlaws or High Limiter, no brainer. You'd be on one of those tours, 100%. But like again, hats off to everybody in Pennsylvania. Tracks, Lincoln's really stepped up this year. Grove, Port, Baps. There's just good money around here to be had. Fortunate enough to take a lot of those races this year, and it's worked out.
Well, not only that, you get high limit races here. You get World of Outlaw events here. You get, big 5-figure paydays. You have the National Open, which is coming up 75 grand. You have obviously the Weikert and the Tuscarora 50. And it just, If you're going to run that schedule, I mean, here's the place to be.
Yeah, for sure. I sat down over the off season and kind of mapped out uh, what the what the difference would be for if we ran high limit and additional shows versus just straight up true outlaw. And the number of races came out the same. I feel like the point money and tow money kind of would have offset what we would have spent extra in fuel and hotels. And so, I mean, love everything about High Limit. You know, great series. They're doing great. Love racing with them. And, but it just made more sense. Run the same amount of races, not miss any races back home for good money, and get to sleep in your own bed. It was like 58 or 60 more nights for the year.
That's nice.
So yeah, yeah. So it really, you know, I think we could make it work either way. Not saying that won't ever happen in the future, but it's a great time to race in Pennsylvania. It's kind of, man, like you don't go very many weeks without running for at least $10,000, and we try to take those opportunities when they're not racing for big money around here to go challenge ourselves on the road. And it's nice, great having the freedom to do that, whether we want to go around with the Outlaws or High Limit or, any other, go to a Knoxville weekly race. The freedom's great. And I definitely feel like we need to be doing that to stay sharp when we get
Mhm.
back here. Uh, Always got to be challenging. Pennsylvania's great, competition's tough, but just getting to different tracks and it's a breath of fresh air. Don't get stale going to the same two, three tracks, week after week after week. You know, it's great to be there for the big races and still have the opportunity to get out and travel.
That being said, and you mentioned it a little bit. Do you ever see this team doing? I mean, God, you guys are making $400,000 a year doing what you're doing. Do you ever see yourselves maybe committing to a series, or is that something? I mean, I know Anthony told me it was talked about in the off season, possibly running high limit, but I mean, is it how serious is that a possibility in the future?
Um, we haven't gotten to that point looking towards next year yet. I wouldn't say nothing's impossible. You know, Nick supports whatever, I feel will be better for the team. I think Nick puts that trust in me and, having Ryan there as well. And I'm pretty sure if we said, hey, I think we need to go outlaw racing or high limit racing next year, Nick would be like, here's the keys, you think that's what's, best for this team and going to take us to the next level. I'm pretty sure we'd have his full support. So yeah, you never know. But like I said, things are really great. I think we're all enjoying what we're doing right now. The freedom, the being able to piece that schedule together. And I mean, you don't know what the schedules are going to come out and look like this year. It could be. I think they'll stay pretty much the same, but you never know. Uh, Next year maybe things line up differently. Who knows?
Two things, and then I'll let you get out of here. Again, I appreciate you joining the show. Nick Macri. He is one of the most interesting guys I've met in the pit area. And I think for a lot of reasons. The best is when he
You
leaves
should have had
early.
him on. I think you should have had him on instead of me.
Oh, I need a bleep button. But Nick, I think one of the funniest things about Nick is sometimes he just leaves early and goes watches it at home. And it's not because he's mad, it's because he gets up at 3 a.m. every day. Uh, he's like a little energizer bunny, but he does a lot for racing. And I think a lot of people don't realize like what he does behind the scenes. What's it like working for Nick? And it's like you said, he like if you wanted to do something like go to the Owls, he'd give you the keys. That's a true statement. he's a very loyal guy as well. And that's kind of far and few between in this game, having an owner like that.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if I've ever had somebody ask me so many times, do I need anything or what do I need?
Yeah.
And they're, you know, it's great. Anything you ask for, um, you know, we'll get it done. And, yeah, like you said, he'd give the shirt off his back to pretty much anybody out there. And reiterate what you did, what you said about behind the scenes. People don't really realize, what all, some of the stuff that he does to promote better sprint car racing without, yeah, couldn't ask for better owners. Melinda, which is, like I said, whether it's, meal for lunch brought down to the shop so we can keep working and, go out and hey, Nick, we need this to make our, program better. We need to do this to this engine or, it's, he's shown a lot of trust in me and, you know, basically, whatever I ask for, we'll figure it out how to get it done and, we try to just make him proud and, yeah, just, it's great to have.
He brings you pizza after the races.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You never go home here. I'm not sure it's the greatest thing for my figure, but, it's always appreciated.
Yeah, he's something. Last thing, did you ever think you'd be in this position? I mean, you were a guy sitting at a job you hated. You respond to an email, and here now you've won outlaw championships, been part of an outlaw winning, uh, championship team. You're a crew chief of one of the top 10 cars in the country in this sport. Um, that's pretty good, and you've done it in a short amount of time. Did you ever imagine any of this was possible?
No, not at all. Not till, you know, no. I mean, even when I started that Shark, I would have never thought I'd end up at KKR. Um, after maybe 1 year at KKR, like I said, like man, this is something I really enjoy. You know, want to keep growing within the sport. Um, Racing's always been number, you know, top of my list. Was an athlete growing up, but racing kind of overseeded everything else my whole life. Probably led me to some poor decisions and some really good ones. Uh, but I just love competition. I love the competition, but yet the camaraderie that the sport brings. Like I said, I never would have guessed. No, I never would have guessed that I'd be here. Glad to be here. I always thought about. I have a cousin who went to, down to NASCAR land straight out of high school, and always kicked around that, but never wanted to give up driving at that point. Um, I think one thing that helps me with sprint, like I think one thing that helps me that I found my, you know, enjoyment of working on sprint cars was that I never did drive one, so I didn't feel that, you know, I have that respect for those guys. Like I can't go to a dirt modified race anymore because I sit there the whole time. I'm like, man, if I had that guy's equipment, I could go, beat him or do it. So I was never satisfied just working. I never go back and work on a full job of working on a asphalt modified or a dirt modified because I'd have that real itch to be behind the wheel and feel that that's where I was best served. And with sprint cars, I never had that. I'm not saying I wouldn't like to at some point, maybe throw the fire suit back on and take a couple laps and but um, I have a huge respect for what these guys do. I feel it's the greatest, racing and you know takes the biggest set of what to do and I've really found uh, drive and the passion for this side of it. Before I was an asphalt, I was trying to make the money and, maintenance the car when it went around the track so that I could get behind the wheel and drive. And, now it's just a different angle of it and something I'm going to be very passionate about.
Well, you do a great job. You got a great team, and the only thing you need to do is get Ryan to more races.
We're trying. I mean, he mentioned something about going to Sharon Saturday if Lincoln rains out and we need help, but we'll see. I I don't know. I don't know if I believe that one yet.
You wore him out. He went to. I can't believe you got him to go to Fort Ground.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was kind of shocked. He's like, anybody else going to Fort Crown? I'm like, probably just me and Nate. Like, oh, well, I've never been there, and I'd like to. I'm like, okay, well, let's go.
You wait till I get him on it. We're not doing a podcast this week, uh, because of some outside things. But when I get him on next week, you wait. It's good. It's not going to be pretty. But Joe, thank you very much for joining us on the show. I appreciate it. I know you want to watch the Giants yet tonight. Are you a Giants fan?
Giants fan.
I'm a Dallas fan.
I'm sorry.
It's embarrassing. I know. I have nothing good to
It's
say.
been embarrassing for both of us the last few years.
Yeah.
But
Well, my embarrassment lasts about 30. But Joe, again, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. A lot of good stuff there. And I look forward to seeing you at the races. Probably not this weekend, but at the National Open.
sounds good, man. Thank you.
Yep. That's going to wrap up this edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com deep dive presented by EnTrust IT Solutions. Thank you to Macri Motorsports crew chief Joe Mooney for joining us on the show. A lot of good stuff there. Don't forget to click the subscribe button on our YouTube channel and also check out our daily exclusive content at www.sprintcarunlimited.com. We'll be back next week with another edition of the Deep Dive.